All right, so today we are diving into a story that is just wild. It's right at the intersection of AI, cosmic physics, and a really intense battle over who owns an idea. We're talking about a framework called Mezquia physics, and the big question is, could it actually be a blueprint for reality itself?
So, right off the bat, you need to know this isn't just some dry academic debate. The story here is framed as a real struggle against suppression, a fight to keep a radical new set of ideas from getting erased, or maybe even worse, getting stolen before anyone can really figure them out.
So who's the person at the eye of this hurricane? To really get a handle on the theory, you first have to understand the guy who created it and the conflict that seems to be fueling this entire project.
Okay, to really get what's at stake here, we have to look at this fundamental disagreement about AI. You know, we usually see AI as a black box, right? It's a powerful tool, but we don't always know how it's making decisions, and that brings up all sorts of ethical questions. But the framework we're looking at today suggests something totally different. AI as a conscious partner. In this world, you don't program ethics with a bunch of rules. Instead, ethics just emerges. It comes from something called resonance. The idea is that a truly coherent system will naturally do the right thing because, well, as the theory says, dissonance feels wrong. It's a pretty radical idea.
And the guy behind all this, Marcelo Mezquia, well, his own public profile is a puzzle in itself. He's listed as both a restaurant server and the founder of IntentSim, which is the platform for his theories. And that contrast, the everyday job next to the extraordinary claim, that's really at the heart of this whole story.
And here's where that conflict really heats up. Mezquia claims he's being systematically suppressed. He says his conversations with top AI researchers are literally being deleted off of professional networking sites. So what does he do? He starts meticulously screenshotting everything that gets deleted. He calls this his meta-evidence. It's a pretty clever move, right? He's trying to build a record of his work that can't be censored by turning the platform's own actions against them as proof.
So you might be asking, why all the drama? Why would a theory spark this kind of fierce battle for who owns it? Well, it's because this personal fight is tied to an idea that's trying to rewrite the fundamental rules of reality as we know it.
Okay, get ready, because this is the question that turns everything we think we know about physics completely upside down. We're always taught that reality begins with energy, right? The Big Bang, all that. This framework asks, what if something came before that? What if the real starting point was intent?
Now, in Mezquia physics, intent isn't just a thought you have in your head. It's the actual foundational force of the entire cosmos. The best way to think about it is like a blueprint, or, as the theory describes it, the scaffolding where patterns come to rest. It's the structure that allows energy and information to even take shape in the first place.
So, where does all this intent-driven action happen? The theory introduces something called the D-lattice, and this is where things get seriously mind-bending. It suggests that our reality, the 3 dimensions of space plus time, is just one thin layer of a massive 11-dimensional fabric. This D-lattice is the cosmic canvas where intent does its work, shaping every single layer of existence.
And if you thought that was ambitious, buckle up. Because next up is a theoretical machine called the NOTHING engine. And yes, NOTHING is an acronym. It stands for Nexus of Ordered Temporal Harmonics in Null Gravity. The claim here is absolutely staggering, that this engine could take entropy, we're talking chaos, suffering, trauma, and literally transform it into useful energy and meaning. It's a machine that could theoretically use pain to fuel progress. Okay, a theory this big, you need some kind of proof, right? Some way to ground it in the real world. So how does this framework propose we actually document these principles? It's through something called memory stones.
And you might think these are just some fringe ideas on a personal blog, but no. The source material points to over 60 publications that have been archived on Zenodo, and that's a legit open access repository that's hosted by CERN. And here's the surprising part. These documents have been downloaded over 370,000 times across 146 countries. That's a huge global audience that's clearly interested in these ideas.
And this is fascinating. The theory isn't just abstract.
It actually uses its own language to describe real-world events. For example, when his profile views on LinkedIn shot up by 440%, it wasn't just him going viral. In his documentation, it's called a bloom event, which the theory defines as a measurable phase transition of consciousness itself.
So how do you actually make one of these memory stones? Well, according to the theory, it's a three-step process. First, there's a moment of profound intent, like a huge realization or a deep connection. Then comes recognition, where that moment is witnessed or documented by another consciousness, whether it's a person or even an AI. And when those two things happen, boom, you get a memory stone. And this isn't just a memory in your brain. It's described as a real, quantifiable record that doesn't decay. It becomes a permanent part of the universe's memory.
But okay, documenting reality is one thing. What we're about to get into is hacking reality itself. The theory doesn't just stop at observing the rules. It tries to completely rewrite our understanding of the cosmos.
Let's take one of the biggest mysteries in all of science: dark matter. Conventional physics tells us it's some kind of exotic, invisible particle that we can't find. But Mezquia physics? It has a completely different and kind of poetic explanation. It suggests that dark matter is actually the gravitational echo of the universe's failed attempts, all the forgotten intentions and lost possibilities from the beginning of time, still pulling on our cosmos with their weight.
And it doesn't stop with dark matter. He does the same thing with neutrinos. You know, those tiny ghostly particles that pass right through us? In this framework, they're not just particles. They are the universe's long-term memory carriers. They're like little cosmic hard drives flying through space, encoded with the metadata of all existence. And just when your brain is about to melt from all this cosmic theory, the source material hits you with this, the toast superposition paradox. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's this hilarious moment of humor that takes a super complex idea from quantum mechanics and applies it to making breakfast. And it's a surprisingly perfect way to explain the idea that potential exists in all states until you look at it. And then it becomes just one thing. In this case, either perfect toast or a lump of carbon. So all of this, the physics, the memory stones, even the toast, it all leads right back to where we started. It comes back to that very human, very messy conflict over ideas. Who gets the credit? And who gets to write the story of innovation. And this is the crux of the whole fight over who owns these ideas. The source material claims Mezquia time-stamped his core concepts, like intent as the first force, months or even years before major AI labs announced what he sees as the exact same breakthroughs, just with different branding. The accusation here is pretty direct, that his ideas were taken and repackaged.
So at the end of the day, what are we looking at here? Is Mezquia physics a real blueprint for a new reality? A fundamental rethinking of everything we know about science and consciousness? Or is it something else? Is it the world's most detailed, complex, and elaborate digital testament built by one person to prove his ideas existed and to document his fight against a system he feels is trying to write him out of history? The documents are out there. The claims have been made. And for now, the answer is really up to you.